The dropship's metallic hull cut through Earth's atmosphere like a blade. Inside, the alien soldiers laughed. Their voices, grating, guttural things, echoed off the armored walls. Some clutched their rifles lazily. Others cleaned the lenses of their helmets, not out of need, but out of boredom. Earth was a backwater planet. Its civilization shattered. Its armies broken. Resistance, they were told, was primitive. In this last zone, a region of dense wilderness far from the ruins of human cities, was merely a cleanup operation. High Commander Talvik adjusted the cuff of his crimson cloak as he stood at the front of the troop bay. His twin hearts beat in calm unison. He had crushed 6 planetary rebellions. His war record was unmarred. Earth will be no different. Intel reports human movement in this jungle sector, his adjutant said, tapping the holopad. But their tech is obsolete. Thermal signals are low, scattered. They're hiding. Talvik snorted. Hiding? What can hide from us in such filth? The door groaned open with a hiss. Jungle air flooded in, thick, wet, alive. The soldiers grimaced. Vines dangled like serpents. Strange birds shrieked in the canopy. The sun's rays broke through in golden shafts, but they only illuminated more tangled chaos. The first squad deployed with confidence. Power armor hissed softly as boots sank into moss. Sensor drones rose, scanning for movement. Trees towered, ancient and oppressive. The terrain defied logic. The jungle refused straight lines. By the second hour, the jokes had stopped. Private Jurek stumbled back to the group, visor cracked, armor stained with blood, not his own. His mouth twitched as he spoke. As something took Kareth. No scream, no struggle. 1 second he was on my left. Then he was gone. You panicked, Talvik snapped. This terrain plays tricks. You saw shadows and fled. But when they returned to the last known location, there was no sign of Kareth. Only his helmet, split clean down the middle and placed carefully on a stump, facing the approaching soldiers. Talvik's fingers curled. The squad spread out, deploying motion sensors, micromines, drones. But the jungle swallowed their tech. Vines grew over cameras in minutes. Audio feeds recorded only static. Their HUDs blinked with errors, environment unstable. GPS locked, data corrupted. As night fell, the soldiers clustered together, forming a defensive ring around flickering perimeter lights. Something watched them, not just from the trees, but from below, from above, from within. Each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves pulled a weapon to the ready. No one slept. A shriek tore through the dark. All guns turned, beams slicing the undergrowth. But there was no target, only the sound of something dragging. Something heavy. When they found the corpse, it was hanging upside down from the trees. Stripped of armor, throat slit, eyes removed. "They're beasts?" one soldier asked, voice trembling. "No," said another, kneeling to inspect the body. This was done with a blade. Clean, precise. A few hours later, 2 more soldiers vanished, one from a latrine break, the other while repairing a sensor node. No alarms triggered, no shots fired. Talvik's arrogance began to bleed into unease. He issued an order to burn the forest around them. Flamethrowers roared. Napalm splashed across roots and trunks. The jungle hissed in pain. But by morning, the jungle had returned. The flames hadn't spread. The charred patches were overtaken by new vines, new moss. Birds chirped again as if nothing had happened. The morale fractured. The soldiers whispered among themselves of ghosts, of spirits, of ancient wrath. Some refused to venture into the undergrowth alone. Others kept their rifles aimed at the canopy, certain the trees were watching. The adjutant reported again. "Commander, this is no longer a sweep. We've lost 8 soldiers. Our surveillance is compromised. We should request orbital support." "No," Talvik growled. "We are not afraid of shadows. They are humans, nothing more. Their time ended when their cities burned." Still, he added more patrols. He increased night rotations. He kept his own weapon closer. Then came a morning when no patrols returned. The squads, 3 in number, each 12 strong, gone. Only a single drone made it back. Its footage played back in jagged loops. Trees. Movement. A sudden blur. Then darkness. Frame by frame, something could be seen, shapes moving in perfect silence. Human-sized, draped in vegetation. Faces hidden. Rifles slung low. Eyes covered by dark lenses. Ghillie suits. The commander froze the footage. Enhanced it. Figures emerged from the jungle mist like wraiths. Not ragged survivors. Not feral remnants. Special forces. One figure lingered at the edge of the frame, crouched beside a tree, rifle aimed. Behind him, a corpse, a galactic soldier, lay stripped of gear. Blood pooled beneath. The caption on the screen, scratched into a metal tag and left deliberately in front of the drone lens, read, "You invaded our home. We didn't hide. We waited." The soldiers saw it too. No more laughter now. No more boasts. They stood silently, watching their own fear reflected in each other's eyes. "They're not hiding," one whispered. Talvik said nothing. That night, screams came from all directions. But no muzzle flashes. No cries for help. Only silence between bursts of terror. The commander didn't sleep. His helmet off, he stared at the flickering hologram of Earth, once marked as a simple conquest. He zoomed in on the green mass labeled Zone 9 Jungle Basin, the last human stronghold. Unmapped. Uncivilized. He stared at the designation again. Uncivilized, he muttered. A rustle outside his tent snapped his head up. He reached for his rifle. But no one was there. Only the jungle. And something breathing. Close. He stepped out, scanning the darkness. The lights flickered. Something moved just beyond his reach. Then he heard it. Faint, deliberate footsteps. Not a beast. Not wild. Trained. The jungle held its breath. So did he. The figure crouched beneath the thick canopy, motionless. Not a leaf stirred around him. Mud streaked across his cheeks, sweat dripped down the bridge of his nose, and his ghillie suit merged perfectly with the twisted underbrush. His rifle rested on a rotting log, sights trained on a clearing 50 meters ahead where alien soldiers moved in disorganized clumps, stepping too loudly, too confidently. Ghost Viper exhaled slowly and adjusted his scope. Every movement was measured, trained, silent. He didn't flinch when a beetle crawled across his glove. He had been still for 2 hours, listening, watching, waiting. To his right, he heard the faint scrape of a blade being unsheathed. That would be Nomad. Always preferred steel over lead. A whisper in his earpiece confirmed it. Target right side, patrolling solo. "I'll take him." Ghost Viper acknowledged with a click. He shifted focus to the left perimeter where a pair of aliens lingered near a downed tree. Their backs exposed, their weapons lowered. Amateurs. He squeezed the trigger. One shot silenced. The alien dropped like a rag doll. The second turned just as a blade slashed his throat. Razor's work. She was always close, unseen. The galactic troops didn't hear it. Or if they did, they didn't understand it. For the jungle special forces, this wasn't war. It was tradition. 10 kilometers out, deep within a camouflage dugout, Sergeant Rios monitored a flickering feed. The jungle scrambled long-range transmissions, but local signals held strong. Small screens showed heat signatures moving through the trees, but it wasn't the enemy she focused on, it was her team. Viper, Nomad, Razor, 8 others, names long since wiped from databases. Ghost now. Alpha unit reporting. Ghost Viper's voice came through. Calm. Steady. Sector 5 cleared. No survivors. Recovered plasma cell pack and encrypted comlink. Sending drone with package. Copy. Rios responded. Advance to Sector 6. Watch your flanks. Always do. She leaned back and rubbed her temple. Her bones ached, but her mind stayed sharp. The jungle was her second skin. When the world above had burned, cities turned to ash, governments crumbled. Her unit had retreated here. The Galactic Empire assumed they were defeated. They weren't. She pulled a cloth from her pack and wiped the mud from her rifle's scope. Around her, the command post remained nearly invisible, a shelter built from branches, leaves, and cunning. Even satellite imaging wouldn't pick them up. It wasn't technology that kept them hidden. It was knowledge, instinct, patience. She switched channels. Beta team, status. 2 confirmed kills. No injuries. They're spooked. Firing blind. Let them. Bleed them slow. Each operation had been surgical. Strike. Vanish. Bleed morale. The galactic forces were strong? Yes, but they lacked adaptability. They relied on hard tech. Cold data. But machines didn't understand the jungle. Couldn't feel it. Humans did. Back in the field, the alien patrols staggered like drunk insects. Their commander had tripled their numbers after the last ambush, but that only made them louder, more visible. They barked orders in a clipped dialect, scanning tree lines, firing warning bursts into the dark. One fired into a bush. Leaves fluttered. Nothing moved. His fellow troopers laughed, nervously. Then his head exploded. The laughter stopped. Ghost Viper pulled back into the foliage, already moving to another firing nest. Behind him, Razor set a timed explosive beneath a fallen log. 30 seconds. Enough time. They vanished into the green. Seconds later, the log detonated, shrapnel tearing through alien bodies. Screams followed. Then silence. Again, far above the treetops, a galactic dropship hovered, feeding its commander a live display of the chaos. Talvak's face was tight with rage. His troops were losing cohesion. Something had gone very wrong. He barked into the comms, demanding reinforcements. Deploy flame squads. Burn everything. But, Commander, the fire doesn't hold. I said burn it. Below, the undergrowth flared orange. Screaming plants curled into ash. Trees cracked, split. Animals fled. The sky darkened with smoke. But when dawn came, the jungle was alive again. Green, wet, restored. Talvak didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Because the jungle wasn't just a place. It was an ally. Sergeant Rios watched from a perch on a branch 40 feet above ground. Her team had retreated during the firestorm, navigating old tunnels and vine-covered trenches built over years. She counted 20 enemy casualties. More would follow. She tapped her earpiece. Phase 2 initiated. Time to take their eyes. Back at the enemy camp, drones rose into the sky. Surveillance resumed. But the feeds began to flicker. One by one, the flying sentries dropped from the air, hit by camouflaged sniper fire, or tangled in weighted nets strung across the canopy. Within 2 hours, the alien army was blind again. In the heart of the jungle, Nomad crouched beside a body. His blade dripped dark blood. He took no trophies, said no words. Just wiped the blade on a leaf and moved on. He was raised in wild terrain. The jungle didn't scare him. It gave him clarity. Nearby, Razor whispered over comms. Commander's tent spotted. Flanked by 2 guards. Recommend disruption strike. Ghost Viper considered it. Not yet. Keep eyes on. Let the fear build. Let them rot in their own tension. Fear was a weapon more powerful than bullets. By nightfall, the galactic camp was a nest of nerves. Troopers fired at leaves, shadows, wind. One shot a fellow soldier by mistake. Another walked into his own proximity mine, miscalculated. Screams became common. The medics were overrun. Talvak barely left his command post. He'd stopped speaking in complete sentences. His eyes twitched. His armor was smeared with sweat and grime. His sensors told him nothing. His maps were useless. He had no idea where the enemy was. How many? What their objective might be. He hadn't realized he'd stopped calling them humans. Now he called them ghosts. Inside the jungle, Ghost Viper sat beside a low-burning fire, smoke hidden beneath a canopy shield. Around him, the squad cleaned weapons, applied fresh camo paint, and sharpened knives. No one spoke much. Words weren't necessary. They had trained for this moment, conditioned for it. He looked at each of them in turn. Razor, Nomad, Flint, Whisper. Survivors. Killers. Guardians. We move tomorrow, he said. We hit their central comms, drop their backup net. They won't see it coming. Razor nodded once. We never miss. From far off, an alien scream echoed, sharp and short. Ghost Viper smiled faintly. They came here expecting animals, he murmured. We gave them hunters. He lay back against a root, rifle beside him, eyes scanning the sky. Above the canopy, a storm gathered. The rain would come soon. Perfect cover. Rain came at dawn, thick and relentless, drumming against the jungle in a steady rhythm. It blurred the trees into shadows, smothered sound, turned the ground into slick, treacherous mud. For the jungle special forces, it was a gift. For the galactic invaders, it was a curse. Ghost Viper crouched beneath a curtain of vines, his eyes fixed on the alien comm tower nestled between makeshift barricades. The rain distorted visibility, but his thermal scope cut through the haze. Two guards stood under a canopy, bored and inattentive. They leaned against their rifles, heads drooping. Machines hummed behind them, transmission nodes, encryption relays. This was the lifeline of the alien force. Once it went dark, so would their last link to the fleet orbiting above. He tapped his earpiece. Flint, status. A whisper came back. Charges planted. South side. Timer synced. Nomad, in position. East slope. Clear line of sight. Razor, ready. They'll scream before they fall. Ghost Viper smiled. It wasn't humor. It was certainty. He waited 10 seconds, then gave a single word. Now. Silence fractured. The first explosion erupted from the south, a concussive blast that toppled two plasma generators and lit the sky in flickering orange. Screams followed, sharp and panicked. Guards turned, rifles raised, shouting in broken orders. That's when the snipers fired. Nomad's first shot dropped a technician mid-run. Razor's next took a squad leader through the visor. Ghost Viper moved fast, weaving through the smoke and rain like a specter. He scaled the outer wall in 3 movements, slid down behind a cluster of crates, and shot a soldier in the throat before he could scream. Inside the comm tent, chaos erupted. Alien officers scrambled over data terminals. Static washed across their displays. A captain shouted into a comm link, but no signal returned. Another officer attempted to reroute power, only to be yanked backward by the neck, his last breath gurgling in the mud as Razor stepped over him. Within 2 minutes, the tower was dark. Ghost Viper placed a final charge at the base of the structure, activated the remote, and vanished back into the tree line. The tower crumpled with a crackling roar, showering sparks and steel into the wet soil. Sergeant Rios watched from a nearby ridge through her scope. Her team was a blur of motion: strike, vanish, strike again. Every shot had purpose. Every movement was calculated. This was the moment she had waited for. Years of hiding, training, surviving. It all funneled into this. Her voice cut through the comms, cold and final. Initiate sweep. Beta and Gamma squads, positioned across the basin, began their push. Not with tanks or air support. Those had long since become obsolete here. They moved with blades, suppressed rifles, and terrain mastery. Alien squads, fragmented and leaderless, broke into small pockets of resistance. They didn't stand a chance. At one of the outer camps, a group of galactic soldiers attempted to regroup around a heavy turret. Before they could power it, a spike trap sprung from the earth, skewering 2 of them. A net of woven steel dropped from the trees, pinning the rest. Flint dropped in seconds later and finished the job with short, brutal bursts. Elsewhere, Nomad led a flanking maneuver against a fortified bunker. The enemy had barricaded themselves with plasma shields and auto turrets, but their heat signatures gave them away. Nomad and Whisper used the natural slope of the terrain, crawling beneath the roots of thick jungle trees, bypassing the line of sight entirely. When they breached the back entrance, the fight was over in less than 30 seconds. Talvik watched the disaster unfold from a shattered command tent. Rain streaked his armor. Mud caked his boots. Around him, bodies littered the camp. His soldiers, his officers, their faces frozen in confusion and terror. The jungle had turned against them. No, something in the jungle had learned to use it. He no longer barked orders. His voice had dried up. Only silence answered him now. A shadow moved to his right. He turned, pulse rifle raised. But it was already too late. Ghost Viper stepped from behind a tree, drenched in water and blood, his rifle steady, his eyes unreadable. Talvik fired. The shot missed by inches. Viper closed the distance, striking the alien commander's rifle aside with the butt of his own. The two collided with a crash of limbs, slipping and sliding through the wet leaves. Talvik was larger, stronger, armored. But Ghost Viper was faster, smarter. He struck the alien's knee with a snap, sending him down with a roar. A knife followed, flashing once, then pressed against the commander's throat. "Your mistake," Ghost Viper said quietly, "was thinking you could conquer a world you didn't understand." Talvik stared up at him, defiant even now. "We are the Empire. We've crushed 10,000 species. You should have studied this one first." The blade slid clean. By the time the sun reached its apex, the battlefield had quieted. Smoke curled into the sky. Fire smoldered. The bodies of the galactic soldiers lay scattered in silence, eyes open, expressions frozen between confusion and fear. The surviving alien troopers who surrendered were bound and blindfolded. They would be marched out of the jungle, interrogated, and eventually sent back with a message. Rios walked the clearing, rifle slung across her back. Mud clung to her boots. Blood stained her sleeves. She passed by her soldiers, checking wounds, confirming kills, coordinating extraction points. When she reached Ghost Viper, she paused. "You took him down?" He nodded once. "Any trouble?" He hit like a tank, moved like a rookie. She allowed herself the smallest smile. "The fleet will come looking. They'll find a graveyard." Razor stepped beside them, rain still dripping from her hair. "We've got 2 hours before the storm clears. We're pulling all data from their tech." "Good," Rios said. "We'll let them know Earth isn't theirs. Not now. Not ever." As the teams vanished into the trees once more, the jungle reclaimed the silence. The birds returned. The vines unwound. The rain washed away the footprints of war. And in the shadows, the hunters waited. There was always another wave. The sky above the jungle crackled with the low thrum of galactic cruisers retreating into the upper atmosphere. The once confident armada that had descended days earlier with laughter and arrogance now limped back to orbit, shrouded in silence. Their comm relays were gone, their command decapitated, and their surviving soldiers scarred beyond recovery. What little pride remained had drowned in the mud and rain of Earth's wilderness. Sergeant Rios stood beneath the dense canopy, her eyes scanning the gray light filtering through the leaves. The smoke from the fallen alien camp still clung faintly to the wet air, but the forest had already begun to reclaim the ruins. Vines curled over scorched metal. Moss crept across shattered helmets. Nature was swift in its vengeance. A drone hovered silently above, feeding a live transmission to a portable holoscreen resting against a stone. Ghost Viper crouched beside it, watching the feed as the galactic fleet turned away. His face was unreadable, as always, but there was something different in his posture now. Not satisfaction, not relief, but a hardened certainty. They had won this battle, but the war had only changed shape. "They'll send another force," Razor said from behind, her voice low, her rifle slung across her back. "Bigger, smarter." "They always do," Viper replied. Nomad emerged from the brush, dragging a heavy duffel of salvage tech behind him. "We got everything from the comms tower. Encrypted data, location markers. They weren't just here to exterminate. They were scouting for full-scale colonization." Rios nodded. "Then we make sure this failure becomes legend." She stepped forward and activated the beacon drone. Its encrypted signal climbed through the atmosphere, relayed through a surviving satellite, and pinged across the system. A message accompanied it. Video footage of alien soldiers being hunted, ambushed, and dismantled with ruthless efficiency. Faces painted in mud. Camouflage bodies emerging from the trees like spirits. High-value officers dragged into the jungle, never seen again. The transmission ended with a still frame. A bloodied alien helmet resting atop a fallen log, scorched with human writing. "This is our home." Aboard a distant galactic warship, the footage played across a council room. Holographic generals sat in silence, their expressions tight, disturbed. One leaned forward, hands clasped. This wasn't resistance," he muttered. "This was domination. They were outnumbered 10-1, another added, and they dismantled an entire battalion. The eldest among them, his skin pale and scarred by decades of war, stared long at the final image. They fought like phantoms, killed with purpose, used no ships, no mechs, no orbital support, just terrain, just instinct, no mercy. He paused, then made a motion with his hand. Reclassify Earth. The room tensed. Red class. No further engagements. It is off limits. A murmur of reluctant agreement rippled through the chamber. The Empire had faced countless foes. Rebellions, machine worlds, hive species. But this was different. There was something beneath the strategy, beneath the bullets and blades. Something that couldn't be calculated. Back on Earth, the special forces melted into the jungle once more. No one celebrated. No flags were raised. No speeches delivered. That wasn't their way. Victory was survival. It was the ability to vanish again into the green and wait for the next threat. Ghost Viper walked alongside Rios, the two weaving through undergrowth like they'd never stopped. She looked at him, noting the wear on his face, the fine lines, the tight jaw, the eyes always scanning, even in safety. You ever wonder, she asked, what peace would feel like? He considered it for a moment. Too quiet. She gave a dry chuckle. Probably wouldn't trust it either. They reached an overlook high above the basin. From there, the destruction below seemed minimal. Scattered debris hidden under vines, broken crates devoured by moss. To the untrained eye, the jungle had never seen war. Behind them, the team gathered. Razor cleaning her rifle. Nomad sharpening his blade. Whisper stitching up a gash across her leg. It didn't speak much. There was no need. They had become part of something older than war. They were guardians now. Not of cities, not of governments, but of Earth itself, its wild blood, its forgotten roots. The jungle didn't want saviors. It wanted balance. They had given it that, and it had given them purpose. Rios turned to them. We'll keep moving. Burn the trails. Shift the caches. Change the frequencies. Let them keep guessing. Razor stood, brushing dirt from her sleeves. What about the prisoners? They'll be released. Blindfolded. Let them wander out. Let them tell the story. And if they don't, they will. Terror survives longer than memory. As the sun pierced through the thinning clouds, a moment of silence fell over the unit. Not grief. Not triumph. Just stillness. The kind of moment that only comes after chaos. The kind that marks a threshold. Far below, a surviving alien soldier stumbled through the trees, gasping, wide-eyed, clutching a crude walking stick. His uniform was shredded, his helmet gone. He had been spared, deliberately. A message carved into his forearm armor in jagged script. Run. He did. Hours later, he would be recovered by a distant patrol ship. He would scream at shadows, refuse food, and speak only one word when asked what had happened. Hunters. That word would spread. Across ships, planets, outposts. Through whispers, reports, rumors. Earth wasn't weak. It wasn't broken. It was wild. And the ones who lived in its forgotten places were not soldiers. They were something worse. Something patient. Something lethal. In the depths of a jungle, the squad moved on, their trail already vanishing behind them. The birds resumed their songs. Insects buzzed. The rain returned in a light drizzle. No markers were left. No names etched into stone. Just a living world watching its defenders disappear into the green. Waiting.